Welcome, writers, readers, and friends to the Authors Talking Bookish podcast. I'm Donna Norman Carbone, author of All That Is Sacred.
And I'm Hope Gibbs, author of Where the Grass Grows Blue.
We're two debut writers traditionally published by a small publishing house, bringing to you all the experiences that we as authors learn the hard way, so you don't have to.
We'll give you insights from the inception of a book idea to publication and beyond. And along the way, we'll share our love of books from the writer's perspective.
Welcome back, friends. It is episode 60. Can you believe it? I can't. Today we're talking about tension and conflict, the writer's secret weapons. I am Donna Carbone, and I am joined by Hope Gibbs. Hello, Hope. How are you?
I'm great, Donna. How are you doing?
I am well. I am absolutely well.
Ready for the holidays?
I am ready. Yeah. How are you?
I'm getting ready. I don't prepare for Christmas as early as you do.
Yeah.
I'm one of those that I have to finish a holiday completely before I can look ahead. But I do love this time of year even more so now that my children are all grown. Because you realize it, just getting them all back together. It's a lot to get everyone in one room.
I know. They have lives of their own.
Yeah. And your life is getting ready to change soon.
Yes, it is. Mid-December, she's due. I cannot wait for my first granddaughter.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. Things are going to change for sure. In all good ways, I hope. Yep.
My mother always said, and it kind of hurt my feelings. She always said, "Oh, I like being a grandmother so much more than being a mother when they're little." And I was like, well, I wasn't that bad, but
I think my mother felt the same.
Yeah,
she didn't actually say it, but I don't think she had to.
Yeah, my mom flat out said it. She said it to my sister and myself, and but yeah, it's a special time for you.
Yeah, it certainly is.
So yeah, Christmas, you're going to have an extra person at the table.
Possibly, unless she wants to come late.
Mid-December, and if she's not here by Christmas, I would be very upset with my doctor.
Yeah.
Because my first son was 10 days late, and those were the 10 longest days of my life. And it was my first, so I just kept thinking, oh, it's going to happen. No.
Okay. Well, she's actually due the 20th. So if she didn't come on Christmas, that wouldn't be a surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's only 5 days. Although my son is like, she will not be born on Christmas. I said,
oh, no, you better don't say that. You have just jinxed yourself. So what's going on in your reading world? What are you reading right now?
So I am reading an arc from a good friend of ours. Her name is Linda Rosen, and it's called Abandoning the Script. It's coming out in March, I believe. And I didn't start it yet. I'm very excited too. I've read all of her other work, and it's been amazing. Yeah.
We know Linda from our bookish road trip. We know Linda from our bookish road trips days because she was a fellow tour guide.
Yes. Yeah. She is in charge of the newsletters for Bookish Road Trip, and she's written 3 books already. All of them, she describes them as being in the not too recent past. So she writes historical fiction, and she always has some element of jewelry in it. So I'm looking forward to finding out what her element of jewelry is in Abandoning the Script.
Yeah, in her last book, it was an emerald necklace was on the cover. It was a beautiful cover. Is she still with the same publisher? Is this going to be?
She is. Yeah, she's with Black Rose Press. Is that the name of it? Yeah.
Congratulations, Linda.
Yeah. So I'm excited to read that.
Awesome.
Yeah. What are you reading?
Well, speaking of Bookish Road Trip, I am reading A Fine Layer of Dust by our good friend Barbara Conry, who is going to be a guest in December. I have had the privilege of being a tour guide with her at Bookish Road Trip, and she also is a fellow Red Adept writer, and she very much took, I think, both of us under her wing when we both got our deals at the same time. She was so lovely to give me a book blurb, because getting a book blurb your first time around, it's so um,
Daunting.
it's daunting, and you know
Yeah.
what? You're nervous to ask someone to read it, and she could not have been lovelier. And she was I think she was my first book blurb. So I love Barbara. I've read her other. This is her third book. I've read her first
Yeah.
two books. One of
Mhm.
which was a USA Today best-selling author. I keep wanting to say USTA because that's tennis. But no, I loved her first two books. And so I can't wait. I'm just barely into this book, but we're looking forward to having her on.
Yeah.
I think it's our December, was it 6th?
Mid-December. Yeah, just before Christmas.
Yeah.
You're gonna enjoy it. I've read that book and it's, like her other two, phenomenal.
Yeah.
A real heartwarming story with lots of conflict, which is what we're talking about today,
Yes.
in many different forms. And I think you'll be pleased by the end. Yeah.
Oh, well, I love Barbara. I can't wait to read it. And congratulations to our friend Linda. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get into this episode, which is very
Okay.
interesting. It's about tension and conflict. So
Yeah.
Donna, why don't you start us off?
Sure. We thought we would have an episode that is talking about the differences between tension and conflict. One is at the scene level, the other is at the plot level. Um, and they are so essential, like maybe the most essential thing to making a story work. Because without conflict, stories aren't interesting. We like to see conflict, we like to see how it's going to be resolved. So, we're going to talk about the differences between them. We're going to give you some examples and some ideas how to infuse them into your work.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just start at the very basics.
Yeah.
What is tension? Well, the definition is the immediate scene level sense of unease, anticipation, or curiosity. And it is to keep readers invested moment to moment. And I want to use you as an example. This is a little off script. Tell me about that at the beginning of your first book, All is Sacred.
All that is sacred. The tension is established in the very first chapter,
Yes.
because it's where the girls, there are five friends, if you haven't read it, it's where you first notice the fracture in their friendship. And the interesting thing is that was not a chapter when I sent it into the publisher. It wasn't until after it went through edits that my editor suggested I begin somewhere else, because she wanted me to begin where the tension started. I began it much later, and there's another chapter, two chapters later, where some tension happens as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's essential to have in every single chapter.
And I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I felt
No.
with that was even more so than even in Of Lies and of Honey. I believe
Right.
that All
The
That Is
beginning.
Sacred immediately, that first chapter, I knew, ooh,
Yeah.
something's off here. Not off, but there was something boiling under the surface.
Yeah. And you know what? Hope I think that your book does that perfectly as well. I mean, within the first few pages, do you want to share about that?
Well, yeah, at the beginning of my book, you have a woman who, is married, even
Mhm.
though she's not happily married, she's committed, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. But there's this underlying tension that she knows deep down that something's wrong, and then she gets presented with exactly what is wrong in her marriage. She finds out in a jewelry store that she's been given her husband's mistress bracelet by mistake,
Mm.
and then it just starts tumbling and starts kind of unraveling, and that all happens within the first two pages.
Yeah.
I started pretty early, but throughout that first chapter, I made it known that this wasn't just this rosy beautiful marriage.
Mhm.
There were signs, and so for me, I wanted to grab the reader. I wanted them to immediately get invested in, well, what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's how I used it.
And it does. I mean, the minute that bracelet is handed to her and you realize it's not her bracelet, you need to know whose bracelet it is. You need to know why it's
Yeah.
not hers.
Yeah.
And, you
Because
know,
physically, she is a woman who has very small wrist, and this bracelet is very large, and the
yeah,
bracelet is being fixed, and a new jewelry does not require repair. So
right.
that's pretty much how I started it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the other thing we're here to talk about. Donna,
Right.
what is conflict?
So conflict is at the plot level, and there are many different conflicts. There's four major conflicts: man versus man, man versus himself, man versus nature, man versus society or woman. um, but you need to establish conflict at the plot level. And if you're writing a full length novel, you have plots and you have subplots. So you want conflicts for both. You want big conflicts that are going to, travel the arc of the story. And then you want the smaller conflicts within, your secondary characters or things that are kind of leading to the big plot.
Yeah. And again, to bring up all that is sacred, you do that beautifully because you have the women. There are several women in your story.
Right.
Each one of them have a very interesting relationship, and within those relationships, two characters in particularly, they have serious conflict.
Yeah.
So talk about that. What gave you that idea to have these characters kind of at odds, even though they'd had a history for 30 years?
Forever. Yeah. Well, I wanted it to be realistic. And, you've got five women who have been friends since they were 14 years old.
Mhm.
Some are going to be closer than others. And I kind of think the closer that you get, um, the more delicate your relationship could be. And so that's the case with these characters. And I wanted, like, the overall conflict is that there's this woman who just died in a car crash and she can't get to heaven until her, friends have healed in order to help her family heal. But her friends can't heal until they, meet each other together
Yeah.
and, figure their shit out.
Yeah, and I love how you use the backstories. There was backstories because of how each one of them interacted, and there was a conflict underneath the surface with almost every single one of them.
Yeah, yeah, there was. There
So
was, which I think makes the payoff at the end even greater
yeah,
because, with all this tension, with all this conflict, you're asking yourself many questions. Are these two friends going to be able to repair their friendship?
yeah,
Are, they going to be able to heal, or is the whole friendship group broken apart because
mhm,
these two can't come together?
yeah.
So I think one conflict begets another conflict begets another.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about examples in other books. And so two examples that you brought up are Katniss in the Hunger Games, which, as you know, is one of my favorite series, and also Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. Do you want to talk about Elizabeth's? Um,
Sure. Sure. So her internal conflicts are her own prejudices, her own sense of pride, which stands in her way throughout the story. But the big conflict is society's expectations of what marriage should be.
yeah, yeah. And with
And what
Katniss,
about,
well,
yeah.
Katniss, the whole reason for Katniss is she wants to protect her sister.
Hmm.
Because at the beginning of the Hunger Games, her sister is selected, even though, Katniss reassured her since it was her first time that her name would not be in the drawing. So in the Hunger Games, it's all the children in a district, and your name gets put into a big bowl, and they select you to compete in the Hunger Games. And if you don't know what that is, it's you fight to the death. You
Hmm.
can only have one winner. And Katniss has gone through it many times, and her name is in that bowl more than her sister. And when you got, extra, like if you got extra food to get food, you could put your name in so you could feed your family. And of course, her sister gets selected, and immediately Katniss, she volunteers as tribute for her sister. And so she's conflicted with that, like trying to protect her sister, but she's going to basically be sacrificing herself. So you have that conflict of love, but you also have self-preservation, because that's a hard thing to say. Yeah, I'll volunteer for this horrible games. And then later on the book, she's conflicted because she has someone from her district who she has a relationship kind of with feelings, but also she's conflicted because if he lives, she's not going to live. And she's also conflicted because she doesn't want to do this. This is her against the Capitol. The Capitol is a horrible regime, but she's conflicted. What can she do? She's just one person. So those are kind of the underlying with Katniss. But the whole book is conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you deal with the all the children and they're put into this arena, and you have some kids that are absolutely there to kill,
Right.
because that's what they've been raised to do. But then you have the other, it's a moral, I mean, if you talk about a moral dilemma, to
Yeah.
survive, you must kill.
Yeah.
So I just absolutely love,
It is embedded with conflict.
yes, absolutely. So then let's talk about some tips on creating tension and conflict. And I love this because I did pull this because, my favorite book of craft is The Emotional Thesaurus. But talk about some other ways that helps you create tension and conflict within your story.
Sure. Well, a conflict is the big idea. Again, that's at the plot level or even the subplot level. That is something that is going to extend beyond a chapter. It creates the stakes for the story. What if the main character doesn't reach his or her goal? Tension, it makes the stakes felt in every single scene. So some things that you want to think about doing are planting seeds throughout, creating tension to varying degrees throughout your story. I mean, you don't want something earth-shattering in every single chapter, but there's different ways to achieve tension. You can escalate the internal and external struggles like intermittently, so you're not focusing on one all the way through. Use subtext. Oftentimes what the characters don't say is more important than what they actually do. um I like to leave, I don't know, I call it planting seeds, like little hints throughout, and I do this more during the editing phase than I do the writing phase. So like I'll get to the end of my story and think about, okay, what are the little seeds that I need to have planted throughout? And I'll go back and make sure that they're there. Some of them already are, but some of them I need to infuse. So the editing stage is where I'm really tightening up like all the threads that are supposed to lead to solving this conflict, whatever it is.
Yeah. And don't be too quick to solve conflict too quickly, because you want to not drag it out, but we don't want our characters to get everything that they want too soon.
Right.
So I think that's a lot to do with pacing.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. It's the thing that keeps characters reading. So if you resolve things quickly, you're going to run out of things to write.
100%. So let's talk about some more examples. This is more with, I loved how you brought this
Tension.
up. A character hiding a letter just before someone enters the room, or a dinner party where everyone's polite, but the secrets are bubbling under the surface, and that is classic tension. What are some examples that maybe you've used in your 3 books?
One of them is a secret. I'm thinking about you have me in the all that is sacred frame of mind. One of them is a secret that 2 friends have, and one of them has more information than the other one has about the secret. So that's one way. The other is finding a journal that didn't exist to reveal some things that the 4 friends didn't know about the 5th friend who passed away. So there's little ways that you can infuse tension in your scene without being very overt about it.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about some other keys to illustrate. We're talking about Gone Girl, and we're talking about tension, and this is when Amy's diary entries versus Nick's POVs. So if you've not read Gone Girl, I highly recommend it. It's still one of my favorite books because of the twist. So as a reader, you're reading what Amy's writing in her book versus what Nick is telling you, and they're completely different. It's like day and night, and you keep asking yourself, well, who do I believe?
What's
And
real?
sadly,
Yeah.
at first, I was kind of believing one character. I'm not going to tell it because I don't want to give it away,
Yeah.
over the other.
Yeah.
And then you get hit, like,
Right.
at the, I like to call it at the turn where it's the second half of the book.
Right.
So that's a good one. The Handmaid's Tale and Game of Thrones. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So at the scene level for Handmaid's Tale, there's, excuse me, so many different things that are done. I think The Handmaid's Tale does it so brilliantly. Just seeing someone, like one of the handmaids, seeing the commander, just that observation creates tension because she doesn't know what's coming. Um, there's such a hierarchy in that show that tension, it's really ripe with tension.
Mhm.
Plus the secret society that the handmaids have together, where they can't reveal themselves, because if they reveal themselves, it could mean their life.
Yeah.
So I in a, on a grand scale, in terms of conflict, oppression, um, hierarchy, um, y- there's a lot of different themes and conflicts that come into play.
Yeah. And it's so funny because we've talked about all these books as an example. So you have your book, Women's Fiction. My book is Southern Romance.
Yeah.
Not to compare them with The Handmaid's Tale, but you have a dystopian future
Right.
with The Handmaid's Tale and with The Hunger Games. But then you also have Game of Thrones, which is fantasy, and you look at Gone Girl. That's a thriller. So they're
Right.
all different genres,
Yeah.
but they all need conflict and they all need tension. And
Yeah.
every story, even if it's a Christmas book, there is conflict, there's tension, and that makes your story more relatable
Mhm.
to me, because I want to read something that I can, relate to. And there's tension, there's conflict, no matter what you do in the world, and so you should know how to write it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Donna, you've got something special for our audience. Will you want to tell them about it?
Yeah, so it has to do with mine and Hope's favorite craft book, the Thesaurus series by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. I would love to have them on the show sometime. We
I would
talk
love
so
it.
much about their work.
Yes.
Um, so what I did was I put together a download for you to talk about, and kind of posed a scenario, to kind of talk about how you can use the two books to work toward establishing conflict and tension. So in the first book, I pulled out a sample. So it's the conflict thesaurus, and I pulled out the sample of being cheated on. In the emotional thesaurus, I pulled out the sample of anger as being one of the emotions that the woman feels when she discovers she's being cheated on. And so I'm not going to give it all away, but the download goes through this whole scenario and talks about how to use the anger and the different sort of facets that Puglisi and Ackerman give you about anger to create tension in a scene, and also how to use some of those details in the conflict thesaurus, which also comes in like many different facets, um, to establish conflict on a much grander scale to last throughout the book.
Ah, well, that sounds so interesting. And
Yeah.
thank you, Donna,
That's
for
your due
putting all
now. You're
your
due
due
now.
now. Yes. So I am so excited to announce our next episode. What episode is it? 61, Donna?
Yeah, it's 61.
Well, it is a conversation with best-selling USA Today author Barbara Conry. We are so excited to talk about her latest book that just was released in October, and it is getting such great reviews. I mean, again, I can't wait to finish this book, but we are lucky to have Barbara, and we're going to talk about Barbara's road to publication. She's a debut novelist after 50 or even after later than that. And she has become so wildly successful. So we are so excited about that. As always, guys, you can find us at authorstalkingbookish.com, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, and on Instagram. So again, everyone, thank you so much. And until next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Hope Gibbs.
And I'm Donna Norman Carbone. It's time for you to get to work.
We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with another tip from your author friends.